it's just all really about trying to empower the community. Because when I empower the community and educate the community, they're able to support me, and I can be a better city council member to them.
What up, though, Black Fridays family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Before we get into today's episode, make sure that you tap in with previous episodes, hit the like button, share, subscribe on all major streaming platforms, and of course here on YouTube as well. Now that I got that out the way, we have a very, very special guest in the building. I want to introduce you all to my new friend, my new buddy, Detroit City Council President Pro Tem, James Tate. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you for having us on, talking about a very important topic.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. Very important. And speaking of that, I would love to, if you don't mind, get straight into it in terms of Protect Your Crown and being able to help improve the resources that people have surrounding their mental health in the city of Detroit. So if you don't mind, could you share with us a little bit about Protect Your Crown and how it's going to help its citizens?
Absolutely. So we rolled out Protect Your Crown last year. Protect Your Crown is a mental health awareness and advocacy campaign. Where we are doing everything we can to try to get folks to recognize the importance of the value of maintaining your mental health. And for some folks, that's like a bad phrase. You know, I know that growing up, at least in my family, we didn't talk about mental health, mental wellness at all. And whenever it came around, it was kind of talked about in a negative way. Somebody's crazy, or just pray it away, so to speak. You know, or it'll go away, or you're not strong enough. All of those negative things, we got to peel those layers back, and especially seeing that we live in a society now where we, especially our young folks, trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And if we don't find a way to empower them, because we can't do it for them, we got to empower them to address their mental health concerns. And if we don't do that, then they're only going to pass it on to another generation and another generation. We continue down this road. And I'm all about my city, Detroit. And as we start to build up the city in various neighborhoods, downtown, you name it, Lions are even winning, Pistons winning now. We now have to figure out in a major way how to address this mental health concern that we have in the city of Detroit. When you look at the statistics, police department, they go on almost about 4,600 runs dealing with mental health. Many of them are armed individuals. And so from a government standpoint, it's imperative that we address it. From a humanistic standpoint, as a Black man, it's important. All of the above, checking every box. Protect Your Crown is here to empower folks to deal with their mental health. But in addition to that, what are we going to do as a government once we find out what those mental health concerns are? So we have a survey that we also included for the very first time ever. The city of Detroit has released a survey where we're looking for residents to fill out 19 fairly simple questions, but some of them are pretty personal. We don't want to know who you are. We don't have any identifying information other than a zip code, because we want to know what's going on in this part of the city, that part of the city, and it's citywide. And it's questions where we're asking about your mental health journey in terms of trying to address those mental health concerns. What have you confronted? What's your feelings and attitudes towards it? That information that we get, we're going to use sort of like a blueprint that will help guide us to what types of resources we go and attempt to acquire to help our residents. So I always say, you know, help us, help you, so to speak.
So how can people fill out this survey and in terms to be able to feed some of that data and information that you're going to need in order to provide the proper resources? Yeah,
we have a bit.ly with all kind of letters in it, but I'll make it real simple. You can go to Google and type in Protect Your Crown Detroit, and I guarantee you it's the first link that will pop up. So go on Google, Protect Your Crown Detroit. You'll see the survey, and we're looking for 5,000 responses. We got a couple thousand right now, and we're going to do a check-in in February. February's 22nd, end of this month. And do what we can to try to continue to drive those numbers and drive engagement and change policy and advocate for more resources than we have currently today. And, with the challenges that we see now with the federal government in terms of funding, grant funding, and fill in the blank, we know it's going to be even more challenging for us. But we're up for it, and I'm glad that we got a head start on things. But it's still, even with all hands on deck, so to speak, it is a very daunting task, for us to accomplish.
Absolutely. And for the change makers that's listening to this episode or will see it, what is going to happen once you all collect that information and then are armed with that data for next steps? What can we expect if we could paint a perfect picture of what next would look like?
Painting perfect picture is getting those 5,000 responses and using that information to help steer and navigate the city health department and other departments in retrieving grants and other opportunities that will help go towards addressing the mental health concerns of the residents of the city. If that means that we have to stand up a new program, there it is. If that means that we have to work towards, this limited funding that we have to allocate in a particular area, that's what we do. What that information will also provide us, again, is what's going on in the different parts of the city based on the zip code. So it really provides us with information that we don't have currently. Typically what governments do is we think something is important and we just do it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time ever that we are looking for input from our community, especially when we're dealing with mental health. This is all information that we're getting from the community. We analyze it, and at that point, take that data and figure out how to apply it to the resources that we are, looking to obtain. But then also having another second, third, or however many looks at the programs and policies that we have in the city to see how we can make things better. I'm very proud of the police department, and this is not tied to Protect Your Crown, but it really highlights and showcases what that city is trying to do to address this issue. We have what's called now the Critical Crisis Response Team, the CRT, our police department, where they address mental health crises or folks going through mental health crises in a different way. So these are officers who are trained above and beyond your day-to-day officers, and they are sent out to these scenes specifically to deal with those who are going through a mental health crisis, not just a regular concern, but a crisis. I've watched one video where there was a gentleman who had a gun that was tucked right here, and the officers took about 45 minutes to an hour to talk him through a situation where he literally handed the gun over. That's not how things used to work, not just here in the city of Detroit, but other police departments as well. They give you a time, okay, we're going to give it 15 minutes, we're going to give it 30 minutes, and if you don't do it, we're going to snatch it, and it ends tragically, unfortunately. And we've had those situations in the past in the city, and that's where we don't want to be anymore. We don't want to be a headline, but more than anything, we don't want to be the cause of a family member losing their loved one because they were going through a crisis and reaching out for help.
Yeah, we see so many stories and examples of that just in the city alone in terms of people having mental health issues. And I can think of somebody from, I won't say their name, to down them or anything like that, but someone I didn't go to high school with them, but they went to my high school, and then just kind of seeing how their life played out on the news and things like that, and knowing that they probably were dealing with some mental health challenges. And you just wonder what could have been if they would have been able to have those type of resources to prevent some of the things that they ended up going through. And so really love the campaign and what you all are doing in order to push this initiative and make sure that the residents can be better equipped with opportunities in order to work on their mental health, and hopefully disrupt a lot of these situations, prevent them from even happening in the first place. So we're going to take a little bit of a break because we're going to have fun on Black Fridays, because I want to introduce you to my favorite part, which is Freestyle Fridays.
Okay.
So Councilman Tate, I hope you came with some bars. Like you're gonna have to give us 18, 16, whatever you got.
I got a little something.
You got
so I don't know if you know, but I actually have a song.
You have a song out.
I have a song that's attached. Well, it's a theme song, so let me not try to tout it out too much. But it's a theme song that's attached to the Protect Your Crown campaign. It's called Protect Your Crown and All the Way Down, and it can be found on all musical platforms. Not trying to make money off of it. That's not my thing. That's coming later. But
it's the anthem.
It's an anthem, and it's really to help drive the initiative itself. We had fun doing it. Did it Mix Factory Studios.
Okay.
Produced by the name of Getty 808. Fire. Had just a good time. Used to rap back in the day.
Okay.
Like
you rapping on this one? I haven't heard it yet. So okay. All right. BARZ.
At least that's what I like to say.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that you brought the fire to the campaign.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I love it. I love it. So Freestyle Friday is actually just a random assortment of questions. They all about you. So you shouldn't get them wrong. And I need you to answer each one and answer honestly. That's it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. So you're a proud Detroiter. And this is a very critical question in our community. What is your Coney Island order?
One more time.
What is your Coney Island order when you go to?
Oh, you know what? So I guess this is my 1 point. So I'm a pescatarian.
Pescatarian. Okay. So no Coney.
Yeah, I left the Conies alone
Fair
a long
enough.
time ago.
But you got to give me the order from back in the day.
Yeah, order back in the day was chili cheese fries.
Okay. I'm listening.
With the real cheese, not the squeezed cheese. I like the real cheese on it with the onions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness! And then of course a Coney dog. You got to have a Coney mixed in there with onions and mustard.
Okay. I mean, that's what other way is it to have it?
And some people put ketchup on it.
Oh no, no, we need to defund those people.
That's what I'm saying.
We need to go find them. If you had to, I'm sure you have an opportunity to meet a lot of people who might not be from the city or have conversations, interactions. What is one thing that you like to make sure that you highlight about the city when you have those discussions? It could be a place, it could be a feeling, a thing. What's something that you always kind of spotlight about the city?
I often talk about the fact that, back in the day, people only saw like ruins of the city of Detroit. They only saw the bad things. And while we had a lot of stuff like that going on, we also had great people. And that's the one thing that, while a lot of those other things, those negative things are changing, where, we have homes that were in disrepair and needed to be demolished. We're demolishing them, or we are rebuilding them. We had areas that were destitute, not much going on. Now you see a lot of lively activity. The one thing that has not changed is the fact that we have great people in the city of Detroit. Wonderful neighborhoods. That's, to me, the strength of the city of Detroit, right? The neighborhoods are very strong. And despite all of the battering that folks have taken over the years, folks in Detroit just don't give up. We do not give up. And I'm proud to be from this city. Everything of significance in my life has happened in this city. And, when the Lord pulls me away, hopefully I'll be right here in the city of Detroit.
I love that.
So I got Detroit all in my heart, everywhere.
I love it.
In my veins.
I love it. So we grew up in the same neighborhood. It seems like right down the street from each other in terms of the areas, just, past each other by a couple of years. But wanted to know, is there something that you miss from like your old neighborhood that used to exist, doesn't exist currently? We talked about, from, I believe that is considered your Grandmont area?
So that's actually where we grew up. That's called the Schoolcraft Improvement Association.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's what it is now.
Yeah.
So being from that area, we talked about Detroit roller wheels. Growing up, I still had access to Mammoth, and remember when that was like thriving with businesses and stores and everything. So is there anything that you can recall from growing up that you miss about that area?
Well, ironically, I still have family and friends and connectors still over in the area. The thing I would say that's missing now that was certainly more prominent back then is this sense of neighborhoods, neighborhood and neighbors. Now, I will say that, in the same breath, there's a lot of folks who are doing everything they can to try to keep that continuity together. So the Schoolcraft Improvement Association, that block club, has gone through some ebbs and flows over the years, but now they're very strong, have strong leadership, and knocking on doors, trying to get other folks involved. The challenge that we have, I'll be honest with you, and we kind of talked about this as we was walking into the building, trying to get young people engaged. Every community meeting association that's out there, the overwhelming majority of the people who participate are seniors. And, they're doing cleanups, they're planning parties and meetups. Trying to get some of our younger folks to take the baton is critical in order to continue what our seniors, our gray hairs, were able to do. And what I've seen in many situations with these associations and block clubs is there's an attempt to hand off the baton and receive it, And then there may be a communication issue, or there may be one thing that folks don't get along with, and then it all goes away.
Exactly.
And so I would say that's one thing that I really wish would would happen now more so than ever, is bridging this gap between our generations within our neighborhoods. We have a lot of young folks who are doing dynamic things. We have some of our seniors, again, who've been holding it down over the years. Imagine if both sets got together and started really planning and plotting on what we're going to do with this city. So we host in the city of Detroit, I mean, meeting on top of meeting, and they're not just meetings to meet and check the box. They're meetings to really determine where this city is going.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, again, what we did not do versus what we're doing now, we're doing a lot more community engagement. It's not so much where we just say, here, take it. It's, okay, we're going to have a meeting. Oh, we're going to have another meeting. So some people say, you all meet too much. We already talked about that. We just want to make sure. And so when we have these meetings, we're doing all this stuff in the city of Detroit, and our young folks are not at the table. You have some that are hyper-focused on this one issue, right? And they want to, I believe that Detroit should invest more in transportation, and they're all in on transportation. But what about housing? I'm all about housing. Well, what about, So it's, we've got to figure out how to get a more full representation of our city in these different areas where they have need, and there's need all across the board.
Well said. And because we've crossed paths at Rosa before in the Rosedale neighborhood, I gotta know, what's your coffee order when you go in the Rosa or any coffee shop? What you getting?
Yeah, I just get I get what do you call it? Americano.
Okay.
But I got my little pinky out. It's something about pumpkin spice that I like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm weird like that. I love that taste, pumpkin spice, and put a little vanilla in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little lavender. I know, got my pinky. But that's my order.
From what
regular milk too.
Okay. From what I've learned in my travels and living other places, is that's a very Midwestern thing.
Really?
Yeah, the pumpkin spice season and getting excited about that. It exists other places, but Midwest takes it to a different level.
Are you a pumpkin spice guy?
I am occasionally, not as much anymore, but probably more so like in college when I was younger and I was kind of like a thing, the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not really anymore. I'm more so just like a vanilla latte. I keep it pretty simple. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for partaking in Freestyle Fridays. You passed with flying colors, so
yes.
we appreciate that. And then we also gonna have to drop a link to the track as well, the anthem for Protect Your Crown in the show notes, so people can check that out. And so I wanted to now talk about your journey into being a part of city council, and you've been there for over 15 years now. And so I'm curious as to, how does one go from, and we talked about our shared love of, or background of communication. How do you kind of go from being in that profession and that background of education to becoming a city council member and doing the work that you've been doing for all these years?
Yeah, it's funny you said it, because sometimes I kind of pinch myself and try to figure it out as well. How did I end up here? So my degree at Wayne State is in radio, TV, film. And in my mind, I was going to be a commercial copywriter. I was going to write commercials, just like it says. But life doesn't go that way, always the way you want it to go. I needed an internship to graduate at Wayne State University, back when we were the Tartars. In '98, I needed an internship to graduate, and my my television production professor, Cliff Russell, God bless his soul, he called over to Channel 4. That person wasn't there in charge of internship, called over to Channel 7. I was working at Channel 7 a week later. Did the internship, fast forward to the end of it, like you always say, hey, I hope we work together again, shake your hand, give a card. Hey, sure enough, they called me back 2 months later and offered me a job. So yes, I'm going to work. Here I am, a senior, while a lot of my colleagues at Wayne State are looking for jobs, and this job said they want me. They didn't pay me well, I must say that, but to be in a professional environment, felt like I was a kingmaker with the news, because I was at the assignment desk. So for those who don't know what the assignment desk is, so, the way that the stories get onto the news, you have a person the way that it was set up where I was, I had 8 police scanners all around me, Detroit, other counties, fire, you name it, all the police scanners, 2 television or 2 computer monitors, 2 telephones, a bank of televisions. So I'm literally getting information. I got to turn the scanner down, turn one up. Did that for 5 years and was real good. Actually earned an Emmy Award while I was there.
Nice.
Yeah. And one day my assistant news director comes in, didn't know him very well, but he just watched my work ethic and, my production. And he said, I'm going to the city of Detroit to be the communications coordinator. I want you to come with me. And at that time I was ready to go. Because in TV news, your day is good when somebody else's day is bad.
Yeah.
And every day we're like, yes, we win. But then you start to realize I'm cheering because of this. And it really hit me one time. The time that it really hit me was when I got a tip call about a body in a house, a historic house in Livingston County. And I'm calling the Livingston County Sheriff's Department for information, and they're not giving me anything. And called my desk and I said, well, I called the news director at the time and said, I want to send the chopper out there, right? And it's about 5 o'clock. So, 5, 6 o'clock, that's when the news comes on. And he's like, it better be something if you're putting the chopper up, because it's like $800 just to get the chopper up in the air. And that's not even getting to the location. So long story short, I got the chopper out there. We got the story. First door and 7, it was indeed a body in the house. And about an hour later, I get a phone call and come to find out that was my cousin. That was inside the house. Wow. So then it was like, wow, this is what I do. Emmy Award, first door and 7, everybody's saying you're great at what you do. It was time to go. So it happened at the right time, the opportunity to leave TV news. So I ended up working with the city of Detroit as the communications coordinator. And I would come in the morning about 3, 4 o'clock. So I would catch the early morning shows. And I would call TV news and say, hey, well, anything going on? You guys, anything we can do to help? So that was my job, to try to fix stuff before it came on the news. And I became so good at it that they stopped giving me the things that they were working on. So fast forward 9 months, unfortunately, there was a shooting in 2004 down at the fireworks where 9 people were shot. And they needed someone to go over to communications at the police department. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Tate, you go over to the police department. We'll bring you back in 2 weeks. We'll find somebody. We'll bring you back in 2 weeks. Well,
2 weeks turning.
How it goes, right? So I go over there, and because everything I do with passion, do it with all my heart. And I went over to the police department thinking I was going to bounce back over to the mayor's office. And this is during the Kilpatrick administration. So we got all this young energy, black energy that was just like powerful. I loved it. And then they sent me over to the police department. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like most other black males in Detroit. I don't have an affinity for the police department at that time, right? Yeah. My experiences weren't great with the police department. So I get there and they treated me like that, like I'm just some young guy coming out. And they thought I was a spy for the mayor's office. And for those who don't know, and I know I'm going back to old man history now, there was not a great relationship with the mayor at that time and the police department. Okay. It was real bad. And they thought that I was a mole and fill in the blank. I had to earn my stripes with them, earn my stripes with the police department. I was the second deputy chief in charge of the Office of Public Information. And so press conferences, I was out at the worst of the worst crime scenes. I saw things that I can't get rid of out of my head right now, things that I was not prepared for, that never went to, like I said, I was second deputy chief. So whenever you have a number in front of your title, that means you're a civilian. Yeah. So I never went to police academy, never got training and stuff. And then here, right? Day after day after day. And I worked in that position for 5 years, did the best I could. And there was a lot of agitation and trepidation going on in city government at the time with the mayor, with council. And I had a lot of folks who were saying, you're a good guy. Have you ever thought about running for council? Furthest thing from my mind. Never thought about doing that. And really had to pray on it. Prayed on it, and just as importantly, asked for permission from my wife. And she said yes. He said yes. And so I resigned from the police department that year in 2009. And the beautiful thing about having a spouse that holds you down is that when I told her that I was leaving the police department, she said, just quit. And I got this.
Mm-hmm.
If you reverse time, there was a time where she was going to school and I held it down. So that's the reciprocity that we have in our relationship. So I tell folks all the time, if you have someone that's holding you down, keep them. Don't mess that up.
Amen.
Because you don't get that again.
Right.
And I don't take that for granted. I did that again for 5 years, ran for council, and came in 7th place. Well, let me back up. During the primary, it was out of 18. It whittled down the group of candidates. It was 168 who ran that year, and I was one of them. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting into the outside of the primary. It was 18 seats, 18 slots. I was number 11. Mind you, there's only 9 council seats, and I come in 11th place. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, man, I can't believe I just left my job, and my wife's going to leave me. Long story short, I retooled the campaign, and I came in 7th place. So I had the 7th highest vote count, elected the council in 2009, and, went through a transition in 2013 when the city went to districts and became this city's first and only at this point City Council District 1 representative. So that's my journey to this space, and have enjoyed it all this time. It's tough. It's tough because every decision I make affects somebody's life.
Yeah. So I have a ton of questions for you regarding that, because I've always been wondering how the inner workings of city council actually works. How do all these different parts come together and make this thing go? Mm-hmm. So first I got to ask you, what are the duties of a city council person? What's the duties on paper? And then I want to know what actually happens. Yeah.
Listen, I'm glad you asked that question and asked it that way, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think that when you're elected, you do everything. Just do it. And we have charter mandate, and the charter is like our Bible. It says this is, or a constitution, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And the charter really lays out only really 3 things: approve contracts and ordinances. Approve contracts, create laws and ordinances, and approve the city budget. Really, those are the 3 things. But we've got to get out here and get to know our community. So I have individuals who are working in my offices on my team who do constituent relations, although that's not our responsibility. Yeah. We have communications in my office. You have someone who has to get out the info that we're trying to communicate to the community. So now that's one of those jobs that's not in the charter. That's not technically my job, but it's the expectation. And it's also helping me communicate better with the residents. We host in my office, and I've been doing this since 2013, 3 community meetings every month. That's a lot of engagement. And we have a real technical setup, and each meeting is hybrid. It's with the online and in person. We average at the every first and third Friday, we're at the Motor City Java House. Shout out to the Motor City Java House. Yep. Alicia George and Eric doing their thing over there. We average about 45 to 65 people who show up, which is a pretty good number. And then every 4th Saturday, we have what's called the District 1 monthly meeting, and we move that one around the district because we don't want folks to say, you only stand on this side of town, you're only over here. And the beautiful thing about that is, when we first started, you had neighborhoods that were one neighborhood over here, one neighborhood over there, one neighborhood over here, and nobody really kind of talked to each other. Yeah. They kind of knew about each other. And you do great work, you do great work. But now, once we started pulling them together in this District 1 monthly meeting, they started doing projects together. And now it's building the strength of the district that I represent. And it empowers me, because now I know I can go directly to my community, ask them, how do you feel about this proposal that either council or the mayor is putting out there? How do you feel about it? And what do you want your council member to do? So a direct connection to them. And I don't have to guess. I don't have to wait until someone calls me. And when someone will call in to city council and say, well, you don't know, you're not doing the people's work. Yeah. I let it pass me, because I know I've done the work. And we've created forums to allow for that communication and engagement. I go out to we've been to birthday parties for residents. We've been to, unfortunately, funerals. We've been to baby showers. You name it. we are immersed. I'm immersed into the community because
Nice.
this is the community I come from. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. Born in District 1, raised in District 1, live in District 1, know the landscape, know the people. And it has been very rewarding, but it is tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult because of the expectations that you just do everything. And I have to explain to folks that, you have different layers of government as well, or levels of government, excuse me. You have the federal level. They do things that are different than the local city.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wayne County. And then you have the state. All have different roles and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But explaining that to somebody right there on the street is not always easy.
Exactly.
So that's why I always say, let's keep a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stay in touch. Come on out to the meetings, or I'll come out to yours, or I'll come out to your house. I've been in backyards. I've been in basements.
Mm-hmm.
You name it. It's not just those who have community associations and block clubs. These are individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all really about trying to empower the community, because when I empower the community and educate the community, they're able to support me, and I can be a better city council member to them.
So is it fair to say it's kind of like you're the CEO of a conglomerate of neighborhoods?
I would say more of maybe an organizer.
Okay.
Maybe an organizer. I'd certainly represent them. I'm very protective of them. I'm very parochial. Don't mess with my D1 folks. But I would say that's what I'm more. I walk away from the CEO. Yeah.
Okay. That's
because
fair.
CEO feels like he's so disassociated with the community.
Got you.
I'm embedded.
You in the trenches.
I'm in the trenches.
I love it. I love it.
Embedded all the way.
So city council is literally and figuratively a full-time job. So you can't moonlight as a city council person.
No, not in Detroit.
Okay.
Now I will say there are some cities and some municipalities, townships, they do have part-time. So like Wayne County, they have commissioners, they're part-time.
Okay.
Other cities, they have part-time, they're not paid. But they have for the most part, they have a different structure. So we have what's called a strong mayor form of government. So that means essentially the mayor truly runs the city. We are his check and balance as council, but we don't run the city. We are his check and balance. We can only vote on things that he presents to us, or she, whoever is the next mayor, right?
Yeah.
That's how our government works. But other governments have what's called a city manager, a township manager. They're the ones who actually run the city, and council members hire them, provide advice, but ultimately it is that manager who runs the city. But the city of Detroit, we have a strong mayor form of government where the mayor is the one who dictates really the tone and tenor, and council is here to say yes or no, you can't do that.
Okay. So kind of like if I had to liken it to something, maybe a board of directors?
Yes, very much so, and an ED.
Gotcha. What does a day in the life look like for a council person from when you wake up to when you going home, if you go home? Because, y'all might be dealing with stuff overnight sometimes.
Yeah, no, just grinding. I mean, you wake up in the morning, at least I do. Wake up in the morning, you're thinking about, how you're going to deal with the 12 things that you didn't get a chance to handle last night. And by the time you wake up, you look on the computer, it's like 3 more things that just jumped on board. Now you're up to 15, that you have to address. But you had 5 more that you had planned for today. So literally it's about understanding how to organize your day. And then not taking liberties when a deadline is not tomorrow. Do as much as you can now, because tomorrow you may not have an opportunity to do it. So it's constant running. One of my chief of staff often says it is, what does he say? Run and rest. That's what it is. Run and rest. That's what we do. So there's no like middle ground. We have, what's called recess, where we have time off, so to speak. But what all that means is that city council is not at the council table. So we're taking a legislative break.
Right.
But at that time, we're like immersed in the community at the block clubs and, all those other things that we could not do during the other time of the year. So yeah, to your point, we're never off. I go to the grocery store. Yeah. I'm going to pick up some bread, and someone go, "Aren't you?"
Yeah.
Yep, that's me. I got a question, right? Yep. And I'm like, yep, answer that question. 2 more people come up. 3 more people come up. I'm riding my bike. I'm mowing the lawn. You name it. Never off duty, but I don't shy away from that. I appreciate the fact that they're coming asking questions, and sometimes I get a little tears. Yeah, and I receive that as well, because if you are a taxpayer, you have a right to an opinion.
For sure.
Yeah, and I want you to voice it, because I'd rather you tell me then make me guess, and then I can work on it.
Yeah. So this is 24/7. It's not like you get the weekends off and you could just like, no, don't talk to me about nothing city council related until Monday.
No, at dinner, when I'm with the wife, hey, I got a question for you. Like I said, it's all day long, all day long.
How do you kind of take that in stride? Like, how is that your, because it seems like it's part of your makeup and just your attitude, disposition to life, but how do you, I'm sure it can be daunting. So how do you kind of take that in stride knowing that?
Yeah, like I said, it gets challenging. You have to find your time where you can, kind of peel away and be by yourself, be to yourself. And then also having a strong team. That's critical, is that, any council member or any elected official who tries to take the credit for the things that they do alone, don't trust them. Don't trust anybody like that, because you have to have a strong team to help your vision come to life. Does that mean that we always hit home runs? No. Does that mean that every idea that I come up with is great? No. But what it means is having a team that you can trust, having a team that can actually produce and do it in a timely manner, because the community don't care because you're sick. So when you're sick, you got to make sure you pass that task on to somebody else to get it still done. Because Ms. Johnson has been part of the reason why she called you, because you called the department 4 or 5 times and nobody responded.
Yeah.
Or she didn't call the department because she didn't have any faith in the city, and she finally reached out to Councilman Tate's office and nobody called her back. So we always have to make sure that we're on, no matter what. We've had meetings where cars have been stolen. Unfortunately, our staff members' cars have been stolen, and they still show up that day because they understand the work is bigger than them. And I don't, I'm not that kind of guy who says if your car gets stolen, you still come to work. It's just that dedication, and those are the kind of people you need who are working in the industry, if you will, that I work in. It's service industry. We work in service. This is service. So. Having a strong team is critical, and finding a strong team is becoming more challenging, than ever, because a lot of people are disenchanted with government, and they look at what I do as government, not as service. Yeah, they just look at it as the big G government, and when you break it down to them, how the things that we do on a daily basis affect their lives. Sometimes it sparks interest, but you got to constantly have frequent touches, with folks, because it's hard to understand. Yeah, you have a city council district, you have a Wayne County district, you have a state senate district, and you have a house district, you have a congressional district, all in that same space. Yeah, one of them is number 1, one of them is 16, one of them is so throwing all that at somebody at one moment, it confuses them, it frustrates them, and they go away. So that's why for me, I'm always trying to have constant touches with my community. What can I do? How can I help? Where are we falling short? What's new? How are you doing? Just asking that question. Just asking that question alone. Yeah, changes the perspective of certain individuals. But I always say that when people know you care, now they're willing to give you a little bit more benefit of the doubt. For sure. For sure. Yeah. How closely do you work with your counterparts in the different parts of government, such as like county, state, things like that? How closely do you work with them, and how often? It really depends on project, or initiative based. We'll see each other out in the community. Certainly the state reps, I work closely with them. I work even more closely, of course, with my colleagues on council. But state reps more, not as much with our federal, and some of that's going to have to change certainly as we look into this new year that we're in. But work very closely with our state representatives, our state senator as well, Wayne County Commissioner, and District 1, in the area that I work in, live in, and represent. To me, it's critical that we have relationships, because at any given moment, a resident can need something that I have no jurisdiction over whatsoever, and I should be able to call them up on the phone and say, hey, can you help this person? And vice versa. They should be able to do the same thing, because we all have different constituencies, so to speak. Some people like me better than them, some like them better than me, but at the end of the day, we all should be really focused on trying to improve life just in general, or providing the information to folks to let them do it. Because that's what I always say, we should be doing a little and get out of the way. Let people do their thing.
Yeah. Now I gotta ask you this, because I wouldn't forget myself if I didn't. What's some of the perks of being on city council?
Look at me. Look where I'm at right now. Right,
be on the Black Friday.
That's
podcast.
number one.
Okay.
Right, that's number one. I will also say that to me the biggest perk is, especially from where we were when I first joined council. We were in 2009, and for those who are aware, that's when
it was an interesting time.
The tank, right? We were all in the tank, twirling down the drain. I've been able to see, experience, and overcome with residents of this city, but in that seat in city council, bankruptcy, emergency management, COVID, which was huge. Been able to represent as the first and only district council member in the city of Detroit's history. So it's been a lot of very rewarding things that have come that have very little to do. I mean, let me just say, those are the things that kind of help keep you going.
Yeah.
Help keep you going, because you realize that it's always not that thing that satisfies you is not always going to happen today. Your satisfaction may happen 3 weeks from now. Again, I've been working with Ms. Johnson on this issue for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I've been frustrated for 3 weeks, but today it finally, cleared up and it happened. That's a good day.
Yeah.
That's a good day. And that's what drives me to continue to do, what I do. But when you talk about perks, it's just really being able to be a part of the group that helped transform where we were in 2009 to where we are here in 2025. And when I say that, while I'm pleased with the progress, I also know that it's still a whole lot left to do.
Yeah.
A whole lot left, because while we have, a lot of this new growth that we've talked about, growth, improvement, people are speaking about us in a different way on a national scale, there's a lot of people who have not been able to benefit from any of this.
Yeah.
And you can fill in the blank as to why. A lot of people like to say government is the reason. Well, maybe. It could be because of decisions that person made.
Yeah.
It could be because of decisions that their parents made. Like I said, that trauma and all of that bad stuff, passing it on. It could be a mixture of all of that, right? But I know that as a government official, I can't default to, well, it wasn't us. It was, I always have to do my best to figure out how government can play a role in improving that situation. But also understanding at some point, I might have to tap out because I just can't do that thing, and be honest with somebody. If you're asking me to find funds to repair your home, I can't do that. We have a program. You have to go through the program. What I can do is help elevate your situation,
right?
And see if it matches a home that's already being repaired, and see which is the worst. But I can't myself go in and pull you out of a list of 800 people who all desperately need this help.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And that sometimes is hard, because you realize that all 800 really need it.
Right.
And it's not like, you got fluff at the top, and then you have people who really, really it's a lot of pain, hurt, that's going on in the city of Detroit. And so with all this great stuff that's happening, we always have to stay grounded and realize that while we pat ourselves on the back, don't do it too much. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who are looking to us to help pull them out of their situation, help provide them with the resources they need. And like I said, most people don't want you to do it for them. They just want you to help, get out of the way. And that's always been my mantra. Help, get out of the way. Check on it, monitor it, right, and see if they still need it. Yeah. But teaching them man to fish, so to speak, as opposed to doing it for them.
Absolutely. And speaking of your experience on city council, you talked about all the change that you've seen over the years, and I just wanted you to kind of talk a little bit more about the team aspect of it, and what is it like having to work with so many other people, or a group of people, I should say, in order to make decisions as a unit, and like what has that been like for you? And I'm sure you've seen it in many different forms, many different fashions, but I'm curious to what's that like in a city council environment?
Well, it really changes depending on the actual council, the council members. So when I first came on, as I mentioned, we were trolling down the drain in 2009. So, and I was part of, when I first came on, excuse me, it was 5 new members. So I was one of 5. And we had, and it's, for those who don't know, it's 9 council members in total. I was part of the 5 that came in. Some people call us the Fab 5. Some call us the Pew 5, right? You name it, we got, but it was 5 of us who came in. And we, for the most part, had a lot of the same ideas or thought similar about ideas. That was one way of doing things and working with that crew. But we also had in that first term, emergency management and consent agreement, all those things happen. So it really changes the way that you work with your colleagues because you're really not in charge when the emergency manager comes in. So now we are faced with, do we try to revolt and say we are going to, turn back everything you say. We're going to confront everything you do and say as the emergency manager, which we wanted to do. I'll say me, because I don't like the fact that we had a unelected person come into the city of Detroit, take over responsibilities and roles of the elected members, but ignoring them doesn't change anything. Yeah. So my goal was, how can I work with this person? How can I provide some level of influence in the decisions that they make, because the state law had changed that has taken the elected officials out of the game. So that's one working relationship that I had at that moment. Then we went to districts. I should have said this. So at that time, we were all what's called at large. So we didn't have any districts, any areas that were our roles and responsibilities. So I, along with the other 8 council members at that time, prior to us going to districts, we represented everybody at the same time with no direct level or of responsibility.
Got you.
When we went to districts, now I'm the king of my district, right? Not me, but somebody else said that.
Right.
Other people say that, right? And so now you've got to figure out how to work with someone that may only want things for their area. Don't care about mine.
Right.
Don't care about anybody else's. And here's the other dirty little secret. The mayor, not saying this happened, but the mayor, remember I told you strong mayor form of government, has the ability to manipulate this stuff. Because if I want something approved, I don't need all council members to approve it. I only need 5. So it's a majority.
Majority, okay.
5 votes, they win. So I can easily go and talk to this council member and say, what do you want? All right. And it may be in conflict with what this council member wants.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you want? And it may be in conflict with that one. So the manipulation is real. It can happen, and it has happened. Let me just say that. And if I was in that position as mayor, would I not do it as well? Probably would do it in some
literally a numbers game.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So that is a different dynamic that we have to work with once we went to districts. And then we came up this last election, 6 new members, and I'm one of the 3 holdovers. So now you got 6 new members that come in, the majority, who have never done this before. And you're trying to provide information, mentoring, tutoring on some of this stuff. Some absorb, some don't. Some have already worked in a legislative capacity in the state as state reps, and they've come to work at the city council. So some of them already know, I don't need to hear I already know how to do this. It's different. And then they learn it's different.
Yeah.
It's very different. So it all depends on the members who sit in the seat. When you start with a long answer to your short question about the relationship and how to work together. Yep. So it's really those members, and it has changed literally every election cycle with every group of council members that have come in.
So you literally have to do a term I use with my friends. You got to know your personnel, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so currently you hold the title of City Council President Pro Tem.
Yeah.
Can you give us a definition of what that even means for folks who may have just recently learned about it, like myself, within the last couple of years? But yeah, what is a City Council President Pro Tem?
Yep, City Council President Pro Tem is essentially Vice President. You know, if you want to really break it down, second in command, if you will. My role as City Council President Pro Tem is simply to serve as president when the president is not available.
Okay.
So if the president is not able to serve duties at the council table, that's where I come in officially. If the president says, I can't be at this event, on paper, the president would tap the pro tem to serve in that capacity. So that's really all it does. I don't have any more power than anyone. It's just to ensure that there's some continuity in the event that the president is not available at that time.
Got it. And is that voted on by the council, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So ironically, it's voted on by council now that we're in districts, but when we were all at large, it was whoever was the highest vote getter. So the highest vote getter at that time was president. The second highest vote getter was pro tem.
Got you.
Yep, and that changed in 2013, where we now, as council, we're the ones who select our leadership.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Great question.
Got to make sure my people is informed. So I appreciate it. So I gotta talk to you in terms of what do you kind of see on the horizon for? Actually, no. Before I get to that, I gotta talk ask you about this. How do you feel like the city residents, it could be for your district, could be for the entire city, can leverage the city resources better? So we talked about how folks don't necessarily always come to or aren't the most enthused about coming to meetings and things like that. But how we started this conversation talking about Protect Your Crown, which is going to have the opportunity to be a initiative that really services the people exactly where they are. How can people leverage city resources better, in your opinion?
Get informed. I mean, and it may sound very simple, but get informed. And the way you get informed is reach out to your council office or reach out to the mayor's office or the Department of Neighborhood. Just reach out, right? Because you can't expect information just fall in your lap. You can't expect information to knock on your door. Hey, I'm information. This is the information you've been looking for. You literally have to do like you do anything else and put some effort into it to get a return. There has to be something that you put in to get this return. So I would say that's the easiest way to that path, to get involved. Learn and reach out and try to communicate. Stay involved if you can. And staying involved is easier now than it has ever been. You just give somebody your email. And we'll trust me, we'll send you an email or a text, right? But don't be afraid to get on a mailing list if it's city government. You want to be on the mailing list because you want to know what's going on in your community. You want to know what's going on in your neighborhood. You want to know what's going on your block. That's how hyper focused we are with our communication nowadays. But get involved.
Okay. If I could flip the coin on the other side, what are better ways that the city could be able to push that information to our folks so that they can be informed? So,
I'm still trying to figure it out because we have social media. We have meetings on top of meetings on top of meetings. We go out to community meetings as well. If one thing I would say is make sure that the communication is digestible. Sometime because we're there and we'll give you information, it may not match the crowd, right? So it may be a one-size-fits-all document that we're handing somebody. And that worked in this room, but it doesn't necessarily work in this one. So that's why I would say overall in city government, in my office, we try to make sure that whatever room we're in, we're providing the information that is consumable for that particular audience. I can't say we always succeed. That's the goal. That's the goal. But again, I need folks to tell me I'm doing it wrong. If I am, right? Because otherwise I won't know.
Right.
I won't know. And so it's just like any other relationship, communication is important.
Love it. As a comms person, that we have that in common. I figured you would know how to tweak that to identify what might be some areas to get after it, go out there and get the word out to people. So I appreciate you for breaking that down. And so now I would love to know, what do you see in your crystal ball? What's the future for your district, for city council, for you, Councilman Tate? How do you see things panning out in the future? Or if it's some things that you want to put into fruition, we always like to share those on Black Fridays.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So for the district, looking for a stronger commercial corridor. We've talked about that in District 1. I represented Grand Mountain Rosedale, which by far the commercial corridor along that area, Grand River is the strongest, but it still needs help. Looking for some sit-down restaurants. You have a lot of takeout, a lot of good food, a lot of good business, a lot of good people, but people want to sit down and have a meal and break bread. So we're looking for more of that. That's on the horizon. We're also looking at reimagining our neighborhood of Brightmoor. That's been a real passion of mine. As long as I've been on council, we've been doing a little bit here, a little bit there. And this year, or starting last year, let me take that back. We began with this what's called the framework, where we are having meetings with the community on what do you want your community to look like moving forward. We've done demolition of hundreds of dilapidated, dangerous, vacant homes in the area. Now we have all of this vast land. What do we do with this land? And then what comes first? The commercial corridor over on Finkel, which is non-existent, or dealing with the land use in the community, in the neighborhoods. The community needs those amenities that the commercial corridor will provide. And the commercial corridor, the retail, absolutely needs a community that's going to support it. So it's a juggling, a matter of juggling those two priorities. And then how do you heal the people? Even if you start talking about those, the land and the retail, how do you heal the people who've gone through all of that they've gone through over those years in the neighborhood? And as you redevelop, how do you ensure that, to the best of your ability, that they're able to stay there and they're not gentrified out? That's on the horizon as well. For the city of Detroit, I would say, and there's much, much more there, but for the city of Detroit, I would say we've got to get a better understanding of our water infrastructure. As we know, anytime it rains, you got people who are crossing their fingers that, oh my goodness, I hope it doesn't flood.
Yep.
I hope my sewage doesn't come out of my basement. So we're doing, massive repairs all throughout the city. It's just our system is just so old and archaic. So, and that costs millions upon millions of dollars just to do a stretch. So now we're talking about doing the whole system, the very first system, a water system in the state of Michigan. It's a very expensive and very challenging that way. And then now looking at I keep going back to the federal government. Before you would be able to rely on assistance from the federal government. Right now, that's not something that we can say is in play. We have to kind of take that off the table until we get a better understanding where things are going. And there's a whole host of other things there as well in the city. But me personally, I plan on running again in District 1 to represent the residents of District 1 again for another 4 years at least, and doing my best to learn more that I don't know, learn more people, or introduce myself to more people, fill in more gaps that have been missed over the time that I've been here, the time we had ARPA dollars, the time that we have had now to recover from COVID, or trying to recover still from COVID. So for me, that's me just kind of really pulling in and filling myself up with things that may have been displaced or dispersed in previous years. And that's just, again, learning more, building stronger relationships, identifying, to your point, that question you had earlier about communicate, identifying how to better communicate and how to bring in younger folks, newer, different people to the table when we start talking about the plans for their particular neighborhood. And it sounds extremely boring, but it is critically imperative, because there's no way that we can move this city in the way that we all want it to move and be if we don't do it in a collective manner.
Right.
Do not allow your government to make all the decisions for you, because we will mess things up. We've seen it.
There you go. Can you say that one more time for people who might
Do not allow your government to make every decision for your life, because we will mess it up. Because there is proof. we have data to show. We have data to show. So
exactly.
Get involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So, Councilman Tate, for the people who would like to get in contact with you, for people who need to know more about Protect Your Crown and how they can go and provide the data and information for that, if they want to follow your journey and see what you got going on, what's your website, social media, email, whatever you contact information you can share with us? How can the people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll say email is pretty long. It's councilmembertate@detroitmi.gov. Councilmember Tate at detroitmi.gov. Or you can call our phone number at 313-224-1027. I'm on all of the social media. We don't have a TikTok yet.
Okay.
But we're on
It's
IG.
back, so you might have to get on there.
It's coming. It's
Okay.
coming, I'm sure.
Okay.
My team's going to make sure I get on something. Right? I've been fighting them all this time, but hey, it's back. But you can find us. I mean, Councilmember Tate, Council Tate. Is it still Tate Jr.? But James Tate. We're on Facebook, on IG. But for the most importantly is this survey. So again, I want to just reiterate for those who want to participate in the survey, and please participate in the survey. Protect your crown. Detroit, protect your crown. Google it. Very first link that comes up.
Perfect. Councilman Tate, this has been amazing. I'm grateful for you pulling up to the podcast, and it resonates for me personally because, like I said, I grew up in District 1 and also lived there when I moved back home from living out of state. So it means a lot that seeing how much you care about the community, how much you put in the work. Didn't know that your job was a 24/7 job, essentially. So I have a whole new level of respect for people who decide to go that path of city council, especially in the city of Detroit. And just listening to your vision of what you would like to see for the neighborhoods, what you would like to see for the city overall is very inspiring. So I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and can't wait until the next invite, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to do it again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Had a great time, man. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Everybody listening, we're going to tap in with y'all soon. Peace.